Today, here on the channel, I want to talk to you about a topic I've heard a lot about and that we've never really explored in depth on the channel. I'm obviously referring to the additional electronic control units for our motorcycles. Are they a scam or do they actually do something, and is it worth installing them on your bike? To find out, I went straight to my friends at Dimsport. It all started in 1991 in a small workshop where a passion for engines met the most advanced electronics.
The first years were dedicated to competitions.
Additional control units and calibration tools to squeeze every bit of horsepower from every single engine. Then in the mid-90s, here we are with the first big leap. Industrial and agricultural solutions are now available. Always, however, guided by the precision of motorsport, we get closer and closer to the present day. In 2004, the Rapid Bike project was born. Advanced electronic management, self-adaptive maps, electronic shifter, traction control, all plug and play. A small step forward to today, Dimsport and the Rapid Bike project are still evolving. New product lines are created: Evo, Racing, Easy, and Smart. Each one is designed for a different target audience, and every product is increasingly faster and easier to install, precise and universal. Today, Dimsport is present in more than 80 countries with a network of installers and tuners who all speak the same language, the language of performance. But I would say that it's time to get hands-on with a Rapid Bike product. To clear up all the doubts we have in our minds, and to answer this question specifically, today I came to see Valentino, Dimsport's product manager, specifically for Rapid Bike. The additional control unit that you produce, what exactly does this additional control unit do?
The control unit, let's say, adjusts the engine's operating parameters, both the injection part and the timing part. Because it's a racing tool, what happens when we change the exhaust? Or even on stock bikes, we have a lack, let's say, in the fuel mixture. They're pretty lean, so if you have a slightly better fuel mixture, the bike becomes, you also get a better feel with the rider. So
today we're here at the Dimsport test bench, precisely to understand the process behind creating a dedicated map. A basic dedicated mapping made by them, also to help you at home understand the advantages of installing a Rapid Bike control unit rather than an additional control unit. And what are the scenarios for use, but above all, where is it actually worth using this approach? Rather than remapping the original control units, let's be honest, not every bike on the market has a remappable original control unit, right?
of course.
So there comes a point where sometimes because of the owner's choices or maybe due to technical impossibility, the Rapid Bike becomes a fundamental piece. Someone might want, as Valentino mentioned, to replace a component like the exhaust, the filter, or both, and they find themselves unable to remap. Intervening on the original engine control unit because maybe the firmware can't be modified yet, or maybe you don't want to void the warranty. This is an important detail, right?
Of course.
So with the Rapid Bike, which is a completely reversible process, from what you were explaining to me, Valentino,
Yes.
we have an additional control unit that is attached to the motorcycle. It then interfaces with the motorcycle in question through a dedicated plug-and-play wiring harness.
Of course.
The process is fully reversible. So if one day I want to take the motorcycle in for a warranty service, or maybe I want to sell it, I want to restore it to its original state by removing it. So the motorcycle is like I never changed anything.
Completely original.
In today's process, we will go together with Valentino A to test this R9 on the Dimsport dyno, a very precise dyno, a braked dyno. It's a highly realistic simulation of riding the bike on the road. We will then create a dedicated base map which will be built and released specifically for the Rapid Bike for the R9.
In this case, we have already installed the wiring that will be suitable both for the Evo 2 and for the Racing 2.
Okay, differences between these two models?
There are differences in the wiring between these two models, but not in the features. So we have the Racing 2, which also has the advanced feature, and the traction control and launch control, which are more track focused. And the Evo 2, on the other hand, handles the carburation and injection tuning.
So how does this R-No perform?
It goes really well, yes.
How much have we developed, but above all, how's the power delivery?
Power delivery is already linear. It's a bit weak at the bottom. As usual, we have very lean carburation at low throttle openings. And you can see from this opening here, which is 15%, that's the one that gives you a bit of the feeling. I mean, at the exit of the corners, if you have a bit more, let's say, linear power delivery, you can manage the bike better.
And instead, when it comes to carburation, maybe that's the thing we're a bit more interested in.
Carburation is very lean since we're at 14 to 14 and a half. Up to 7,000 revolutions per minute, then it drops and runs a bit more steadily. Actually, it's rich, so 12.4 here. This is almost repeated in second gear, so in second gear it's particularly lean, up to 4 or 5,000 revolutions per minute. Then it drops and rises again. We have 12.3 here, so what's going on? The goal is to make it as linear as possible, these fueling curves here, so that the engine always responds. In a way, let's say that's more reliable.
Valentino, now that we've uploaded the R9's basic data to the computer, what's next? I see 3 maps on the screen, Touring, Eco, and Sport. Am I wrong?
Yes, we have 3 options, so we have 3 profiles. We call them that because they have, let's say, a different profile from each other, so both in terms of injection and timing.
So what are, in the end, the actual differences between them?
Is it only and exclusively a matter of gasoline emission?
No gasoline. Once the carburation is set, we keep it the same, limited to Eco. Let's say we only work up to 40%. Touring and Sport remain the same. Because carburation is something you do only once, meaning you need to introduce the fuel at the right time in the right amount.
So the engine runs as it wants, demands a certain amount, and you must supply it.
Yes.
That's what we'll do with the 3 mappings. At this point, what is it?
Once the basic map is set up, to adjust the parameters, keeping the bike at a certain performance level. Because the parameters change depending on the temperature, depending on the humidity, depending on a lot of factors. Some are compensated by the original engine control unit, and some are compensated by the rapid bike engine control unit. Because habits can change, and the way you use the motorcycle can also change. Nervous riding, a more touring style, slow riding, like in the city. Basically, depending on how the rider uses the motorcycle, it adapts to him. With these parameters here.
Just to give you a point of reference and help you understand basically the quality of the mapping, or in any case the changes Valentino made, I want to highlight with him the 3 main values. Even in the workshop with Roberto down at the Moto Garage, we check every time we do a build. That is the air-fuel ratio value, which is the air-fuel ratio of the bike. The leaner it is, the lower the value. Valentino will now explain how this R9 runs. Keep in mind, it has the full Akrapovic exhaust, the one from the JYTR catalog, of course, and the original filter, so we simply change the exhaust header. Fully open, no catalytic converter or decibel killer. The second value is the torque value, so how many Newton meters the bike produces with the standard configuration and the installed components. And the third value is the horsepower. I want to emphasize this with Valentino, because it's something he especially cares about. We've worked on this for years, not just with Valentino now, but also with Roberto before. We went to the test bench and I shared the videos here. I want to stress that it's not just exclusively about that. Work done just for the sake of horsepower or power, but above all for advantages like a cleaner, smoother power delivery. So when you grab the throttle in a corner, maybe when you're around 6,000 or 8,000 revolutions per minute, you open the throttle and you don't have a nervous, rough bike, right? So it still improves your riding feel. But above all, maybe for things that with the current Euro 5, the standard Euro 5 on the latest bikes are the temperatures. These damn catalytic converters keep raising the temperatures, and let's be honest, the pleasure of riding goes down. So please keep in mind that when we do this kind of work, we're not just doing it for better performance, to get 100% out of the engine's potential, but also, of course, for all these extra benefits.
These things ultimately make a big difference when you're driving.
So, Vela, how are we doing with the R9 stock with the components installed?
So the stock components. Basically, we have about 117 horsepower, 10.3 kilogram meters, and at full throttle it goes up to 1312.5, as you can see. 12.5,
Here we are.
116.9, and 10.3. Okay, that's all at the wheel.
Now I'd say let's do a few full gas runs and let's go see. Exactly, the three profiles, touring, eco, and sport, how do they behave, and above all, what parameters do they bring out? Three runs in touring profile done. The improvements are clear. We already have an increase of a few horsepower and a much more precise fuel mixture. And obviously the bike is smoother with the various throttle openings. But before showing you everything, the final result. Now Valentino will go and do the other throttle openings. Partial and at 100% for the other profiles. So touring. We've done it. There's eco and there will be sport. So we'll go compare the result that I showed you earlier with Valentino and Sport at full power, just to illustrate. Meanwhile, what is the increase, and more importantly, how does it change after recalibration? Through Rapid Bike, this R9 So last test with the Sport map, throttle at 100% done. We've already prepared the graphs with Vail to compare what is stock.
So, the bike with just the components compared to the bike with components and recalibration in the engine control unit done through an additional engine control unit.
And the result, I have to tell you at a glance, is super visible.
So here the improvement is good because we started from 116.9 and we reached 120.5 with the same injection map. And with a bit more advanced, there you go, a bit more advanced that allows for a slightly higher peak here. And anyway, you can see a certain linearity even in the stoichiometric aspect of the carburation.
We want to compare this graph with the one from the original. So just the components, here we are.
The blue line indicates the condition of the bike when it arrived, basically only with the full exhaust component installed, while the red line...
As we can see, there's a clear increase after the recalibration done with the additional engine control unit. Rapid Bike, as Valentino was telling you, now we've reached 120.5 horsepower with a torque of 9.7 kilograms, almost 10, with a front engine rear-wheel drive. So an ideal air-fuel ratio set at 13. And as we can see, in the air-fuel ratio graph up top, the line where the mouse is pointing. Right now, we see the red line, which is the current one, and the blue one is from when it first arrived. The bike, currently, up to 5,000 or 6,000 revolutions per minute, runs much, much richer compared to when it first arrived, when it was much, much leaner. Then it stabilizes and reaches basically the value of 13 for the correct air-fuel ratio.
Yes, everything is correct.
So Vail, now that we've made this map, let's say developing it with all three profiles, what happens?
What happens is that now we've defined what the standard is for this make, model, and year. And so the kit will have all this information inside the control unit, which allows it to be quite flexible as well. Because the orientation we've given to the control unit will always lead to reaching the ideal stoichiometric ratio that we've defined through this measurement we've carried out.
Vail, excuse me, I have a possibly naive question. You've done a mapping, let me understand, on a complete Acura? If I buy an R9 tomorrow and install the Rapid Bike for engine control unit recalibration, I'd get a map for the Acura. But what if I switch to a full Arrow later? What would happen?
Can I do it?
Can I still install your engine control unit and use this map, or do I have to come to you? Or maybe will you send me a different file?
So, usually if it's just an exhaust, the engine control unit can still handle the changes.
How so?
Basically, by using it for about 100 or 150 kilometers, it adapts and reaches ideal values for this new type of setup.
Okay, so is there a need to contact you, or does it all work automatically?
All automatically.
Okay, do we need another component? Compared to the Rapid Bike that I'm going to install, an additional module, everything basically standard.
Everything is standard. The only thing you need to pay attention to is that the exhaust is installed properly. So since this is our job, based on the exhaust gases measured by the original lambda sensor, if the exhaust has even a small leak, if it's not perfect, the measurement will be polluted. Basically, everything falls apart.
So Vel, basically, you're telling me that you do this recalibration work for every single bike that comes out or has come out up until today?
Yes.
How many motorcycles come through here on this bench per year?
Well, consider a couple of motorcycles a week. You quickly get to about 120 to 150 motorcycles per year.
And you handle them all yourself?
Yes.
So you're the man who takes this burden, whether the bike goes well or if the bike goes badly.
I've been around the world here twice.
Guys, phenomenal. I mean, this is kind of the temple, if you will, where they come from. They create all the mappings that end up on your bikes if your tuner, of course, uses Dimsport and Rapid Bike ECUs. Dimsport specifically doesn't just make add-on ECUs. In fact, if you're used to watching my tuning videos on the test bench at Roberto Simoto Garage, you've definitely seen it. Some equipment like the Transdata or the Genius tablet, which are always developed by Dimsport, and that are released to tuners to recalibrate the original ECUs, because this, let's remember guys, that this is a non-invasive and 100% reversible process that does not void the warranty. As for recalibrating the original engine control unit, even in that case, we do not void the warranty, because there's always the possibility to go back using a backup. But if you look at my specific case, and I can talk about it because I experienced it firsthand,
when the BMW S 1000 XR engine broke down during that mess,
and so on. Unfortunately, since we couldn't start the engine, we had a problem with the synchronization of the odometers. Between the original engine control unit, meaning the engine control unit, and the speedometer, they are two separate control units. Now, without going into too much detail, that was the reason that voided my warranty, because BMW, anyway, when they connected the diagnostic tool, they didn't object to a mapping modification because they didn't see that data. Because obviously everything had been restored to stock, so even that process can be reversed. You can restore the bike to its original state, but here, let's say we actually have the option not to touch the original components of the bike at all, while by working on the original engine control unit, we do have more parameters we can adjust. But ultimately, if you don't need to race, compete in championships, or have a bike that must go to the track every week to set a time, this can definitely be a valid alternative, and as you've seen, it works. That will let you ride the bike in a much smoother, much more usable way. That will remove those limitations that might have been imposed by the manufacturer and will solve them for you. Maybe issues with the catalytic converter, high temperatures, and riding discomfort. Besides that, of course, we also have an increase in power, both in terms of horsepower and in terms of torque. Here we are back in the studio, finally ready to sum up everything I've shown you in this video. First of all, I obviously want to thank Dimsport for their willingness to open their headquarters to me and show me the behind the scenes of their work. As you have understood, Rapid Bike is not just an additional control unit, but rather the master key to take control. All of them, a series of functions that allows us to control and modify the original parameters of the engine control unit of our motorcycle, without having to intervene precisely directly on it. I obviously want to emphasize that if until today I have gotten you used to seeing reprogramming and recalibrations here on the channel on original control units, it's not because I'm crazy, but simply because, as you understood together with Valentino, these control units allow us to control up to a certain point the original functions. And so we can go and adjust. Obviously, it's less than what a tuner on a test bench with your bike in their hands can do. By acting directly on the engine control unit on the original control unit. That's why Dimsport provides tuners with a complete suite of hardware and software to be able to do that kind of work as well. Obviously, the final choice is up to you, the owners of your motorcycles, especially if you have a new bike that's still under warranty. Guys, this is the ultimate solution that I think you should apply. No hassle, because it's plug and play. You don't have to rely on any tuner, because the map and the base file are already provided by Dimsport. With a little bit of experience, you can do the installation yourself right at home, and the benefits on the bike will be immediately noticeable. with the peace of mind that for any problem, you can go back without voiding the manufacturer's warranty. Because if we want to be honest, it's a modification that you can uninstall. Before taking the bike to the dealer can't see it on any type of bike. That said, guys, this is all from Frexia Verde Nicolo. I thank you for watching and invite you to subscribe to the channel. If you liked the video, leave a like and a comment with your thoughts about it. About everything we've seen today down here below the video. We'll see each other again next time, of course. Always here on the channel, stay safe and keep the throttle open.